My special, special boy. Do you know what your gift is? No matter what they do to you, you cannot die. You can never die.
Hey guys, Wolf of Dimensions here with Jason vs. Kayako, a new series that I'm starting, the Versus series for sci-fi classics and sci-fi monsters. I will get started by talking about each one individually, and after that, I will move on to my moment of who wins. First off, we start with the Silent Killer, Jason Voorhees. Now, for Jason, to me, I love Jason. He's my favorite out of all the slasher out of all the slasher flicks, and he's just my favorite overall sci-fi villain. And not just because of the cool deaths he enforces, and not because of all the crazy things he uses as weapons, but I legitly like Jason because of his story. I loved Jason's whole background. I loved the whole incident surrounding his death. And, if you didn't know, he was a deformed child at Camp Crystal Lake who couldn't swim well, and because the camp counselors were having sex when they shouldn't have been, he drowned. He couldn't swim well. His mother went crazy, tried to kill a bunch of people when it tried to reopen, and ended up getting killed. He grew up in the wild, and the thing is, he sort of turned into, because he was so angry, he killed any teenagers in his path, anyone he thought was responsible for his death and his mother's death. And that went a long way. And eventually he was killed by a child. I can't remember the name because, it's important, so I can't remember right now. But he was killed, no, Tommy. Yeah, he was killed by Tommy Jarvis. And he came back as a demonic spirit. He had so much hate for what happened in his heart that he just refused to die. And no matter what anyone has done, he will not die. As said by Mrs. Voorhees, he can never die. So, it's rather interesting, because we have a psychopath. He's not even a psychopath, he's just a misled child that ended up going crazy, and then ended up turning into a demon out of the rage of dying and losing his mother. So there's a lot to go on about this. He uses anything as a weapon, and no matter how decayed or what happens to them, he still comes back. Like, literally, you could tear this guy in half, and somehow he'd morph back somehow. So, he's a very powerful opponent, very strength-wise, has his own twisted sense of morality, and ends up being a demon. So, he's not someone you want to mess with. So he is our first contender, and my favorite sci-fi slasher growing up as a kid. Next we have Kayako from The Grudge. Now, of course, everyone knows the famous noise she makes, which I played in the beginning. And if you've watched my top 4 sci-fi horror villains, you'll know that this is the one that scares me the most. Because of a child, me watching and hearing about it as a child, it freaked me out because she was just terrifying, and she still is. Like, it scares me to try to get photos and to record that audio bite. But moving on, Kayako, if you look past the whole horror stuff, I feel really bad for her. I felt really bad for what happened to her. She was in love with another man. She ended up marrying her husband, who was kind of on borderline psychotic. And once he found out that she loved someone else, he broke her neck, basically, or hung her and stabbed her a bunch of times, then killed the cat and the boy, his son. Which is so twisted, because what she is she's something called an onryo, a demon or a spirit who died, or someone who died in such a moment of anger or jealousy or rage that it's not even them that's left over, it's some demon. And when this demon's left over, it's a curse. there's so much hatred that anyone who steps into the place where this person died gets psychologically haunted, then killed. And Onryo is an interesting demon, classified as having pale, dead skin, long, unkept black hair, and having the same face and making the same sound as when they died. In this case, she has the face of suffocating for air, and the noise is what happens after her neck snaps. That's the only noise she can make. So literally, the thing she uses to terrify people is how she died, which is really sad. And here's a picture which very well suits what Onryo is. So a very sad character. But as an Onryo, they are the most vengeful spirits in Japanese culture, and as far as I know, in American culture too. An Onryo is something you don't screw with, whereas most ghosts, if you do something that they want, or that they wanted in their past life that made them stay, they'll go away because you fixed the mistake. You can't get rid of these. There is so much bloodlust in their hearts that they only want to kill. That's all they want. They want more victims. There's no appeasing this creature. And that demonic hell train is what we're dealing with. So it's going to be a very rough, messy fight. Now, reflection time of the winner. The thing is that either way, neither of them are going to die. Let's get that out of the way right now. There's no killing in this fight, because both of them wouldn't really die. I chalk it up to this. Jason ends up where the house is. I'm not going to say how. That's not my whole point in this. I'm not going to say when or what happened. He ends up walking through the house, hunting a victim. And Kayako trips or crawls down the stairs. So, when they fight, it's not really... Kayako's whole plan is to mentally torment and eventually kill her victims. She can't do that to Jason. None of Kayako's creepy noises or chasing does anything. And as far as we know, no one's tried to beat up Kayako, so she could easily get torn in half. So, in my opinion, Jason is the winner. Not because he kills her, but because simply he can't die and he's not scared of Kayako at all. So she loses and the curse doesn't spread because it's pretty much pointless. And she'd have better luck haunting someone else. So, it comes as a stalemate, but I respect both characters, love both characters, love the stories because they're both tragic characters and basically the same thing. Like, comment, subscribe, see you guys later. Goodbye.